Hi folks, I hope you've been watching the Olympics. There's been a lot of great bike racing going on among, I guess there's some other stuff too. I've kept a close eye on the road bike, the mountain bike, the time trial, men and women, and I wasn't going to do a recap, but there are a few things that I've been waiting for someone to say and they haven't. So I'm going to go through 11 things today that need to be said about the Olympics that I haven't seen so far. These videos, as usual, are brought to you by Fast Cat Coaching. Coach Frank has been my coach personally since 2014. Since then, I watched him hire more coaches to coach other athletes and kind of train them. I watched him come out with training plans for people, maybe you don't want to pay for a monthly coach. Maybe it's overkill to have someone to talk to and a specific training plan catered to you. The next step on that has come out this year, and that's AI coaching. So Frank has taken all of his knowledge, all of his data that he's learned from tons of athletes. Coach Frank has kind of taken all that information in to the Fast Cat Coaching app. We're not guessing anymore how to get from a Cat 4 to a Cat 3. We know how to do that. Fast Cat Coaching is here to automate it. You download the app, you go into the plan builder. I just watched Emily do this. She's training for the Fireflies. It's a cancer fundraiser ride. It's a multi-day thing. She's been on that plan. She just did their second longest ride ever. She did the 100-mile ride, the Tour to Big Bear. So you've got your training plan. If you need to move something around, you can just ask it in the chat. It'll do it for you. Whatever your level, whatever you're training for, Fast Cat can improve it. That'll give you access to workouts, training plans, meal plans, and the AI coaching. All right, now on to the Olympics. You might notice that one of the first events in the whole Olympic Games was the men's cycling time trial. It's like a prologue for the whole Olympics. That made it a tough turnaround for folks who just finished the Tour de France a few days before, but also kind of a bummer. They probably didn't go to the opening ceremonies. Part of the whole thing, it's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. You want to go, you want to do the whole parade aspect. Those guys were probably like sitting in bed, with their feet up at a hotel, watching it on TV, caught in the river. They got to do the Olympics. But I hope they hung around for the closing ceremonies, at least get to do part of that. Especially since the time trial itself was kind of a bummer. Wet cobblestones are never any fun. Just rain and like a big event you've been training for. It kind of just tweaks the results. The guy who wins, the best athletes won in both cases, but it's going to favor someone who's better at rain than someone who's better at time trialing overall. Okay, the next thing I'm not seeing people talk about, or at least not talking about it like I think they should, is the selection for the women's race, the triathlete of it all. So if you're not familiar, a triathlete, an American triathlete named Taylor, forgive me, I think it's pronounced Knib. For anyone, all the European folks who are mad that I mispronounced the European names, I can also botch the Americans, so you're welcome. She's a triathlete. She qualified for the Olympics for triathlon, and then she decided to pull a couple strings, get kind of an exception, and show up at U.S. Time Trial Nationals. They allowed her to compete at that, and she then won the time trial. Winning the time trial at U.S. National Championships, in this case, was an automatic qualifier to do the time trial and the road race at the Olympic Games. What I saw was a bunch of memes and internet people who were super mad at Taylor Knib for taking a spot that she earned because she beat the other people. I just couldn't quite follow the logic of, no one wants to give that up. There was also some schadenfreude when she crashed in the time trial. She crashed 3 times. These are wet cobblestones, and to be fair to her, Chloe Dygert crashed once. But when you watch the video, she was pedaling through the corners. This is a person who's trained for 3 sports, and bike handling is not her forte. If we're looking for someone to blame here, talk about whoever set up the qualifications for the road race. Now, this is super tough to do. If you make it purely subjective, if you make it like a coach's selection, that's probably the best way to do it. The people who pay attention year-round to the top athletes can pick the right ones. But that can get political. Previous Olympics, Kristen Armstrong was selected, and on paper, she wasn't the best time trialist in the U.S. She had gold medals from previous Olympics, but she had been getting beat by really one other athlete. USA Cycling chose Kristen Armstrong to get that spot. It was a bit controversial at the time. Kristen won the gold medal and really shut everyone up and proved that her selection was the correct choice. But on paper, if you're USA Cycling, I could see the reaction to that being like, well, we're just going to make the next one a time trial, and that's how you qualify, and the results are indisputable because the fastest person wins. There's no debate in a time trial result. But they didn't factor that someone who has little to no experience in road racing would pull the pants off of people in one of her 3 sports. Really, part of the issue here is that USA Cycling kind of failed to develop or identify an athlete who could beat someone who's a triathlete. That also just speaks to the talent of Taylor Knib. It was a bummer to see people shaming her on the internet for walking through a door for a priceless opportunity that she earned. And she did beat Kristen Faulkner in that time trial. Taylor qualified for 2 different triathlon events at the Olympics. She decided to focus on the thing that she'd been training for most, that she won silver in the Olympic relay. But also, I'm guessing some combination of external pressure convinced her to step out of that road race spot and give it to Kristen Faulkner. And I will say that a little bit of that pressure actually came from Kristen Faulkner herself, which is kind of a bummer to see. If you want someone to give up an Olympic spot, write them a check. Say, hey, look, I have a $500,000 bonus. I'm just guessing, but I'm sure a substantial Olympic bonus in her contract with EF. Say, like, hey, look, I'll give you 25% of that, or I'll give you 50%. Like, this is a thing that Taylor Knib would make money from her sponsors for doing this. So she's really giving up an opportunity for the result, but also, direct. And again, Olympics it's a priceless thing. You cannot put a cost on it. To me, giving up that spot was just a very incredibly generous, patriotic move. And there's no bottle of wine that you can give to call it even, or Rolex. This is like, you get a house there. And especially, and here's the part, like, Kristen Faulkner then, not to take anything away from her, she then absolutely proved that she deserved to be there by annihilating that road race. Incredible ride by her. It's worth pointing out that Chloe Dygert, also famously super not comfortable in packs, not known for her bike handling abilities, but like she doesn't like to ride in packs. When I remember her winning like every stage of Tour of Colorado solo one year because she could, but also like I think if you can solo away from her, you do. But she also just didn't want to be in the pack. She attacked. She's focused on the time trial. She's focused on the track. Honestly, like great teamwork by her, taking out a bunch of folks in the front group that forced Kopecky to chase to get back to the front. I was frustrated during the commentary. I think a lot of people were. Kristen Faulkner was having an incredible ride. It was brilliant tactically. When she attacked, she had Kopecky on her wheel, and it was like a lot of people would probably just demand that the world champion do some work, not give her a free ride. I think she knew where her legs were. When she got to the 2 leaders who were up the road, you should just definitely watch the last 20K of the women's race. Just a master class by Kristen Faulkner. But meanwhile, you've got the commentators talking about how she was a venture capitalist and a Harvard. Leave your late-stage capitalism out of my bicycle racing, please. That was kind of a long rant. Part of what the selection process of the Olympics, another thing that I don't think people talk about enough, and it's super weird. We'll do a little bit more on that later. I just had to point out, Taylor Knib wins Cycling Teammate of the Year, Chloe Dygert close second for crashing people, and Kristen Faulkner, holy shit, that was awesome. But that's not the only triathlete drama that we've seen from this Olympics. The other one was Blumenfeld, who, Ironman world champion, incredible triathlete, announced that he's pivoting from triathlon with the goal to win the Tour de France. I forget what year, it doesn't matter, because my eyes were rolling so far back in my head that I just couldn't grasp what he was talking about, and the years don't matter. Had Blumenfeld said he's going to focus on the Olympic time trial, had he said he's going to focus on the hour record, okay, maybe. It still sounds kind of insane. He's a big dude. He is not a climber's build. What it really showed in that statement was that he has no idea what the Tour de France is. Also, to be fair, a lot of pro cyclists have retired from pro cycling and announced that they're going to do well in Ironman, only to be like pretty quickly humbled because Ironman's kind of an advanced sport. I feel like he's just sort of doing the opposite, so it serves us right. But also, Blumenfeld, not even the strongest cyclist in the triathlon field. That was just number 2. That was triathletes invading cycling. Number 3 is roadies invading mountain bike. This has been a long, gradual process. Tom Pidcock is not a roadie. He just happens to be on Ineos and be one of the best roadies in the world. Cyclocross, mountain bike. He's just an all-around bike racer, which is really awesome. The finale of that race was controversial, I think because, well, for a lot of reasons. People don't really know what they're looking at the highest level. But also, I think he let his roadie out a little bit. By the way, the last couple laps of that were incredible. Pidcock and Victor Koretsky just going back and forth for the lead. Just passing on the inside, passing on the outside, passing uphill. Really had some like F1 vibes to it. Pidcock had overcome a flat tire. He really did all the work to get across to Koretsky. Had been kind of up the road trail, whatever. To me at that point, Pidcock had absolutely proved that he was the best in the race. But there was a little bit of a pass. There was like, here's a tree. Koretsky goes one way, Pidcock makes a pass to go around, and they kind of collide in the center. What happens is, in a road race, in the pack, you're just constantly, it just becomes second nature. You're just constantly passing people and moving up. If you're not moving up, you're going backwards. And that's how Pidcock has been trained to live. That's how his brain works. And once you have your handlebars ahead of the other guy, you now have control, and he sort of has to move back, and you took his wheel. That was what Pidcock did. He took the lead, and he owned it. It was a clean move by any mountain biking standard, but if you look at it, it's just like, did he have to win that way? Kind of a bummer. What was off camera was Koretsky doing a much shadier move like half a lap before, where he kind of botched a turn. And instead of letting Pidcock pass when Pidcock should have passed, he intentionally got himself bigger, got in the way. And that's a thing that you would do in a mountain bike race. That's mountain biker action versus road biker action. But ultimately, what you want out of the Olympics is for the best person to win. And Rody Pidcock, that was him. As revenge for that, Pauline Ferrand-Prévot, sorry French people for that pronunciation, announced that she was going to switch from mountain bike to try to win the Tour de France. I like her odds a lot better than Blumenfeld's. Okay, now we're on number 4, which is the team selections. Every country has their own selections. What's weird is that every country gets a different number of riders. Now, I believe the number of riders each team gets is based on World Tour points. So despite Tadej passing on it, Slovenia probably qualified like 25 spots to start the Olympics. Not that much, but way more than the US, who we just got 3. And what makes that strange is that it's not like all year, Ecuador is racing against the U.S. These are people riding for their trade teams, for their, the teams that pay them a salary, the Jumbo-Vismas, the Ineos. And those teams don't care what nationality the winner is. They want the best person to win. So you could have, theoretically, Matteo Jorgensen is racing for Jonas Vingegaard. He's never racing for his own points. He's never racing for the U.S. to get points to qualify. But those points that he earned do trickle down into whether we go or not. So had Matteo not sacrificed himself for Vingegaard and finished 3 spots higher at the Tour de France, that might mean an initial spot that we have. It's the national teams that don't compete against each other other than the Olympics versus the world. I don't know how they should do it, but it makes for a strange peloton. And to go backwards from that, if you win the Olympics, your trade team, which has nothing to do with how you won the Olympics, gets World Tour points. And I explained how the U.S. had their qualification with the time trial, which proved to be kind of a mistake. Now think about how every country has different qualifying procedures, and a lot of it is coach's discretion. A lot of it is some sort of a time trial. Maybe they just have a one-day road race. And the thing about that is, tactics come into play. You run the same race 10 times, you'll get 5 different winners. I talked about the U.S. drama because I'm familiar with that. Richard Carapaz was not selected by Ecuador to go to the Olympics. No offense to the other Ecuadorians, but that's insane. That brings us to another thing. This was certainly a story after the Tour de France when Tadej announced he wasn't doing Olympics. The drama for that was that his girlfriend, who I believe she scored the World Tour points to qualify Slovenia's spot, she won nationals, something going on in Slovenia. She was not selected to race the Olympics. Tadej, salty about that. Hopefully some combination of salty, but also saving his legs for the Vuelta. Probably a lot of reasons to skip a race physically after you just won 2 Grand Tours. I'll give him a day off regardless, but he used that as an opportunity to kind of smear the coach of Slovenia. I'm guessing that goes back many years, and I'm on Tadej's side, whatever's going on there. That said, I think it's completely insane for Tadej to not do the Olympics, not from a dance for me, monkey, what have you done for me lately? I've gotten to watch you win 75 races this year perspective, but more from I know the Tour de France is bigger for cycling than the Olympics, but when you zoom out, the Olympics still a big deal. I don't think anyone's going to argue with me about that. And this is almost a home Olympics, like Monaco, where Tadej lives, and Paris. We're talking, private flight, 75 minutes. He can get over there. Also, he's in incredible shape. He just beat all those guys pretty handily. He's just got to really get on a plane, do a couple easy rides, do one hard day, win the time trial. I can't think of a more low-hanging fruit gold medal. If he wants to have a gold medal in his results by the end of his career, it's going to be a lot harder than this one, even just involving inconvenience of where he's going to have to fly to LA for the next one. That's kind of a pain in the butt. I get his point, but I think he's probably going to regret not showing up for Paris. Okay, on to the road race. 273 kilometers, that's super long. This is the thing I have not heard anyone talk about. There was one clip of Niels Pollitt running into a bar during the race to use the restroom, and that kind of blew my mind because if you look at the crowds were amazing all through Paris, just 100 people deep. Where do they pee? In a pro race, I would pee once in the first hour, and once kind of before the last hour. You want to because you're drinking all day. It's just standard to pee, and for a 250 plus K race, that's kind of a 3-pisser. The Tour de France, really most courses isn't a problem. It's going to be somewhere remote enough that there's not a crowd. Well, you need kind of a gradual downhill or someone to push you on a flat, but just a way that's away from spectators. I'm not sure if they had a 500-meter respite from enormous screaming crowds that entire course. Where did they pee? Can you pee into the Seine? No, only the triathletes are allowed to do that. So amid all the other displays of endurance that day, Remco's bladder, respect. Okay, next is the weird tactics. Now, I talked at the end of the Tour de France, I talked about how it's a bummer that this is a team sport. They all show up in teams. They wear the same jersey, but only one guy gets to be on the podium. The way they announce it is Tade won the Tour, not Emirates won the Tour. I think that's a big problem for the sport in the big picture. I think it would obviously be nicer for Jumbo-Visma as a sponsor if it said that Jumbo-Visma won the Tour. I'm guessing that would be worth more to them. In the Olympic team pursuit, obviously there's 4 people on the track doing the thing. They all get the medal. But in the road race, just the winner gets the medal. And when they don't have trade teams involved, in Jumbo-Visma case, for example, Matteo is paid a hefty amount to sacrifice himself for his teammates. In the Olympics, none of these folks are being paid by the National Federation. So if there's any teamwork taking place whatsoever, it's out of the goodness of their heart or, some sense of patriotism or loyalty to their team leader, which I'm sure counts, but you're just not going to see Wout, for example, just do a complete sell-out sprint and peel off with 100 meters to go like you might in another race where he's getting a check for that. The cases where you see the most teamwork are the teams who qualify a ton of dudes. So you'll see like Italy will go to the front, Netherlands will go to the front, Belgium. But tactically, what that turns into is it incentivizes the person who attacks first. You see, when Remco goes, you notice he attacked first over and over. He took the race by the horns. He's the one who caused the initial splits kind of late in the race. He got across to the breakaway by himself. Part of the reason he was doing that is that if he doesn't go, Wout's going to go. And you can't chase your own teammate. You're not expected really to, in the Olympics, to go to the front and take pulls for your teammate, but you're definitely in trouble if you chase him down by yourself. So he was racing against Jasper Stuyven. Other Belgians were probably in the back of his head as rivals, which made him go like, I'm going to be the guy who goes first. Okay, the other thing that's weird is you can't recognize them. We've just gotten used to seeing what these guys look like on the bike at the Tour, and then here they are in different kits, different helmets, different bikes in some cases. That also goes into the every man for himself tactical thing. No race radios, and which is good because it doesn't matter. You don't really have a team. But they're relying on chalkboards for time gaps. Apparently the American team was writing notes on the water bottles in the hopes that the guy would read it at high speed and then go do what he's going to do. Also to discuss the soigneurs, the mechanics, those would be hired in this case by the National Federation rather by the team. You develop a rapport with your team mechanics, with your team staff, and here's a very high-level race that you only get one shot at and potentially a brand new batch. Maybe they did sign them from those guys' trade teams. If I was Remco, I would have a mechanic that I required to sign, but I think in most cases it's just up to the rider to advocate for that. Either way, enormous shout out for, to me, one of the fastest bike changes I've seen in a long time by Remco's mechanic with a K to go in the road race when he's solo. Unbelievable, he could have lost it by that. I hope he gave his mechanic. That's somewhere between Rolex and a house territory. Ultimately, again, no beef because the best man and women won really in every event. And that's what you're looking for. Shout out to Matteo, the Frenchman, who was kind of the last remnants of the break, held on to Remco for dear life for a little bit, finally got ridden off the wheel, but came in for second. You want to see a French person have the result of their life unexpected. It's cool to just see, Remco yawn, it's his 80th win. I'm sure he was super stoked on it. But seeing a guy who would not expect to be anywhere near the podium come in second at home country, I kind of had a little moment there. Okay, next, I think I'm counting right. This is number 10. I like the streaming thing. If you're going to make fun of Peacock sometimes, which I have, you can give them credit for the whole streaming app element of it. When I was a kid watching the Olympics, you're sort of dependent on whatever primary decisions, whatever they think events are that you want to watch. So you're watching prelims of gymnastics all day. But if you're a total bike dork, you can watch all of the track stuff. You can watch, there's just so many options, which does make it a heavier lift for all the commentating they have to hire. But if you're into surfing and you want to watch the dudes just wait for the wave all freaking day, hats off to you. You can do it now. That said, the one kind of bummer to that is that you're not going to come across sports that you might like, that you didn't expect to. I would encourage everyone, go watch the track finales, go watch the high jumps, go watch the table tennis. Really, every Olympic sport, everyone there is at the, a hard worker, an insane worker with all kinds of genetic freakability at the height of their game. There's just something beautiful to that. I wish Peacock had a event roulette button. You just spin the wheel and here's some random event you didn't know existed. But in the meantime, I'll just encourage you to go check out a sport. Check out the highlights of literally anything. You'll not be disappointed. Okay, number 11, track cycling and road cycling are both technically the same sport. They're both in cycling. When you look at the people, the team pursuit, that's a 4-kilometer effort. A lot of roadies do crossover for that. In at least the Americans, our gold medal team, by the way, Kristen Faulkner, Chloe Dygert, Lily Williams, Jennifer Valenti, amazing ride by them. They didn't seem like they'd done a ton of training together. They didn't seem super smooth, but they just had the horsepower and they got the job done. But then you look at the team sprint, the fast twitch events, and it's just how is that person doing the same thing that I used to do? It's pretty wild. And that sort of goes into the very end of this. BMX is a cycling event. I don't know shit about it. That's a resolution I have for the next Olympics. I'm not going to talk about the track stuff. I know the American track folks, but I don't know the names of the other countries. Australia had a completely insane 3 minutes and 40 seconds for a 4K. It blows my mind. Oh yeah, another weird thing. The track bikes, they have the prices. So the rule per the UCI or per the Olympic, whatever, I think it's both, is that you have to have, your bicycle must be commercially available. You can't have like a custom bike for a specific rider or a specific team. So it has to be on sale to the general public. Now, the loophole for that is that for track, there's just not a crazy demand for, you know, a super, super high-end track. There's folks who race a track on weekends, but they're probably not running like double discs. But they still have to have that high-end bike available. So what they do is they'll have it on their website. So Factor, the gold medal winning bike, you can buy that. But other brands, you'll look at it and it'll be like a sticker price of $75,000, and you know they're out of stock temporarily, which they know they're not going to sell it, and they know what it's for, and that's kind of fine too. I love pointing out loopholes, but I also totally understand why they exist in cases like this. Anyway, my resolution here is to watch the other cycling events as well, learn some things in BMX, learn some things in track, and for the next Olympics, I'll have some idea what to blab about here on YouTube. Okay, thank you all for watching. Don't forget Fast Guy Coaching. I will talk to you soon.